Welcome to the Real Chili Podcast.
And the Golden Eagles of Marquette University in Milwaukee are bound for the Final Four for only the third time ever.
5 seconds left. Marquette down by one, trying to avoid the upset. Blue the drive, the left hand. It's good. 1 second to play. Vander Blue has put Marquette in front by one.
And I want to win every day as basketball players, as students, and I want to win every day, most importantly, as people.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Chili Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lavender, and we always pride ourselves on this being a Pop the Trunk production. Our very own Brian Henry calling in from the airport. Brian, where are you?
Let me tell you about the McNamara Terminal at Detroit Metro.
So good.
It's a truly fine establishment. Taxpayer money did a fantastic job putting together an organized and well put together airport. So yeah, a little Christmas travel, so heading back to the grind, but took in just a barn burner the other night between Marquette and Xavier. I mean, wow.
Sure,
what a game.
It was a hell of a game, and it's taken us a bit longer to get to you because of holidays and because of family and because of travel. But obviously, Marquette lost 91-87 in Milwaukee to Xavier. It was a hard-fought game. Go ahead.
Let's start with this, Mike. Let's tell everybody out there to pump the flipping brakes on the end of the world talk. I don't know where. I guess I understand why the Wojo can't win a big game stuff is out there. But for the love of God, that was a well-played basketball game. Hey, people, we got two 5'10" guards out there, so we can't challenge really any jump shots or entry passes. Yeah, we got toasted by the number 6 team in the country defensively. That's going to happen.
Right.
Like, a couple more stops and they win that game. You know,
this is a completely different conversation if we lose in this fashion to a Butler or a Providence or certainly to a Georgetown, but to a Xavier team that has legitimate national title hopes, that even in their second line are throwing out guys that are long, lengthy, athletic, and have skill. I don't think there's – I mean, look, you can find faults in walking through this game tape, and I've done that, and I've found faults, and we're going to talk about those briefly. But I agree. Pump the brakes. You know, generally message boards and Twitter are kind of the seedy underbelly of college basketball talk. And I think that's what we've seen over the past few days, and it's inaccurate.
Let's start with this. That was an exceptionally well-played basketball game by both teams from an offensive standpoint. Yes, the Golden Eagles got absolutely ripped in the second half. Part of that, though, was a little bit of their own doing, and part of that is because Xavier is really flipping good, as we established that. You're not going to give up 90-plus points most times and win. And I think it's kind of a magic number for us. We hold them to around 84, 85, we win that game. We weren't able to do it. You know, we gave up too many. You know, when you shoot 38 threes and only make, I think it was 14 or 15 of them that we knocked down, it's a lot of long rebounds that go out the other way. You know, we throw in another 3 or 4 more, we win that game possibly going away. You know, it's just, that's how it goes, you know.
Here's what it was for me. Chris Mack, about 10 minutes into the first half, decided to play the game in a 1-3-1 zone for Xavier. For those that don't know, Xavier was in the 1-3-1 for most of the game, and that's a defense that allows teams who want to get out and run to run in the fast break. It allows teams with a lot of lengthy, athletic guards to defend well because they can get in passing lanes. The weakness of a 1-3-1 defense is where you saw Jamal Cain posting up all night.
Jamal Cain was exceptional. I mean, that was truly a breakout performance, and the confidence with we talked about this during the Maui Invitational. It's not like it was a surprise to see him catch and shoot when open. He's been comfortable doing it. Hasn't knocked down a ton of them. He did it in that game, and he kept them. I mean, he kept them for as well as Rowsey played. And we'll get into him. Jamal Cain kept them in that game. He doesn't hit the threes that he hit. That game is not a tight game going down the stretch.
Jamal Cain, 16 points, 1 of 2 from the field, 4 of 6 from the three-point line, 2 offensive rebounds, 2 defensive rebounds, 4 steals.
He was everywhere.
4 steals.
In addition to him, I thought Greg Elliott handled himself exceptionally well. Freshman showed out. Absolutely did it in a big game.
And those 2 guys, Elliott and Cain, 2 of the 3 that were put on Trayvon Blewett, one of Xavier's best players, to be a freshman in a Big East game against the number 6 team and put on the opposing team's best player. That demonstrates just what Wojo thinks of these kids. And Greg Elliott, I was watching the tape earlier today. Greg Elliott stripped the ball from Blewett at one point and just was jacked, totally jacked. I love Greg Elliott's one of my favorite players. But you're right, the freshman showed out. And Theo John had a couple of nice moves. I think you had some thoughts on him during the game where he looked a little bit like he was swimming, but he did seem to get his feet at one point.
He did. He absolutely did. In the first half, he looked like he was trying to, up a creek without a paddle. He just looked slow, and they, ripped the ball from him a couple times. But second half, he acquitted himself nicely. But, I don't think enough can be stated on what we saw happen at that forward position in that game, because we saw a complete redistribution of minutes, and I think it had to be, right? Harry Froling had to play more in that game. He had to. And poor Matt Helt, no one wants – I'm not, saying launch the guy to the moon, but Harry Froling, holy smokes. Passing ability, the aggressiveness, rebounding, which, I think a lot of us were unsure he would have. Guy can play. He can help.
Those two things that you mentioned about Froling, who got 20 minutes in this game and finished with just 3 points, but 8 rebounds and 3 assists. The two, when you watch the tape, the two things that stand out about Froling is that he battles for boards, and that he has this quick touch pass ability, and that showed up in the 1-3-1 zone where he'd get the ball around the free throw line and just pop it back out immediately to Hauser, to Rowsey. And it was beautiful. Like that touch, that he has better skill, at least in that one instance, than Luke Fisher did.
Absolutely. The way you tear apart zone defenses is attacking from the high post. And it is incumbent upon your forwards to be able to flash high, catch, turn, face, and survey and attack the defense. And whether that's putting it on the floor and attacking, whether it's catching and shooting, or rotating the ball. He did a tremendous job catching at that high post, forcing them to collapse, and then moving it to an open teammate. That was really – I was surprised to see – I really didn't think we'd see many teams go zone against Marquette this year, just because of the pure shooting ability. If you're going to leave guys – and they did. And they challenged – and we were texting it during the game. They said any possession where Hauser, Rowsey, or Howard don't shoot is a win. And you've seen teams do that. Any possession where one of those three don't shoot is a victory. And Jamal Cain made him pay for it on a few. And obviously, Elliott did, and Froling did as well. To score 87 points against a really good team was nothing to be ashamed about. They just needed to get more stops. But Mike, I'll say this, and I wanted to pivot it to this. I already kind of alluded to it. When you shoot as many threes as we do, and I'm not, by no means is this an advocation to stop shooting them, you're going to have nights where you don't. They were okay shooting from three, but for whatever reason, those turned into a lot of long rebounds against Xavier. And they got out and went. And they probably got 12 points off of layups and dunks in easy transition situations. There's your difference in the game right there. Just if those balls come off the rim a little bit differently and you get a chance to set up. We did all right in the half court defensively against them. Not great, but it was all right.
It was all right. And to me, going back and watching it again, and we've exchanged texts about this, and I know we don't exactly see it eye to eye. It kind of plays into what you were talking about with the 3-point shooting. When I'm watching Marquette play and Rowsey is out there, the ball gets stuck in his hands more. And let me explain why I think this is an issue. He's an incredible player. He can create, particularly for his size, he can create getting down low in the lane, and he can finish. He can do it at 3. But he doesn't pick and choose his spots to do that selectively enough. It becomes particularly prominent at the end of games when folks like to quote-unquote call it hero ball, but it exists throughout the game. And Andrew Rowsey has not gotten to the point where he can pick and choose when he does that selectively enough and when he can alternatively get his teammates involved. Because when Markus Howard comes on the court, Howard can do that. And Howard gets everyone involved, and the ball moves better when he's on the floor. With Rowsey, it sticks more. And sometimes that's okay because Rowsey can shoot from a million miles away. Sometimes it's not.
While I don't argue that premise, my response to that would be in this game, just looking at the game that we just watched, Howard was in tremendous foul trouble for the majority of that game and had to go to the bench for long stretches. So Rowsey got into long, basically rhythm of playing without his other primary ball handler. And yes, he was ball dominant in that game. He was very ball dominant in that game. I was okay with it. I was talking to my sister after the game, And she was very critical of that second-to-last possession where they got the offensive rebound, kicked back out to Rowsey, and he didn't rotate it. But instead he drove into the key and attempted a contested floater. He's hit that shot. I'm comfortable with him taking contested shots over Sakar and I'm attempting an open jumper. I can't remember that play specifically as to who else might have been open if they would have kicked to. But I'm all right with Rowsey being ball dominant. I agree with you. They are definitely better. But if Howard's parked on the bench, you're going to want it in his hands more, right?
No, that's a great point because Howard in this game, not only did he have foul trouble, but when he was out there, he just didn't have it clicking. Yeah, he didn't have it. He didn't have it clicking quite. He had
moments.
He had
moments and he had opportunities. That back cut he made was beautiful. Froling threw him an absolute dime, and he threw it off the backboard like it was a volleyball. And that one oh my God, it just broke your heart. That would have put him up 2 with under 2 minutes left. And then Xavier came down, and I forget if they hit a 3 but they definitely scored, and it was another swing. Marquette was on the opposite end in that second half of about, Wojo mentioned it in his post-game presser, 3 or 4 different 50-50 plays where if you come up with a loose ball or you knock down 2 free throws, and they went back on the other end and made Marquette pay. That's what good teams do, and props to Xavier for doing it. That is an impressive road win. You can say what you want. We're not ranked. Totally. We are a problem for Xavier. And we proved that last year, and we very easily almost took our 3rd straight win against them, against the number 6 team in the country. It's not like you felt like we were that far away. That's a great win for Xavier to go on the road and win that one. But, oh, man, you get a couple of those 50-50 plays to go different, knock down a few more free throws. You're right there. Nothing to be ashamed of, but it just bugs you because you feel like you should have had it.
So you started this pod by saying, pump the effing brakes. And I think that's what I want to leave everybody with because, yes, we lost. Of course, we're not happy with it. But what we demonstrated this game, we can punch above a certain weight and we can hang with teams like Xavier. Yes, it was in our home building. Yes, the crowd was better than I expected given Christmas break. That Marquette team proved a lot to me. We learned more about the freshmen. We learned more about Harry Froling, and where this is going now is tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to this, Saturday, December 30th, Marquette faces off against the Georgetown University Hoyas at 4:30 p.m. Huge game. In Milwaukee. We have a chance to get back to even in the Big East Conference. But really, this slate kind of before January 28th in the Big East, the first half of the Big East is really stacked against Marquette. So it's games like this against Georgetown that we have to have if we want to keep our heads above water until we get to the second half of the Big East schedule.
You're absolutely right. It will be and hey, anybody that watched that Georgetown-Butler game leading in, as much as we kind of laugh at what Georgetown's supposed to be this year, look, granted they should have beaten Syracuse and they should have beaten Butler. They blew a 20-point lead against Butler in that game. Obviously, they are flawed. There's no question about that, but they might not be as flawed as we think, and there's definitely talent there. So if you don't show up, I'm firmly – they'll get beat. If they don't come to play against them, they'll get beat. And that's good. You hopefully that hanging above them keeps them focused. This is a game they can win definitely by double figures if they play well. But don't sleep on Georgetown. It'll be a competitive game.
Competitive game. The line out for this game is Marquette by 9.5 points. We'll see if that shifts any. One note I want to leave you with. This is Georgetown's second away game of the entire season. They've only had one, and it was at Richmond, who is god awful. So this is for all intents and purposes, this is Georgetown's first true away game. We're going to get to see how they react to that, and that will certainly play into the game because I think there's no question that Patrick Ewing has started to put his imprint on Georgetown, and they already look different. They're playing with a different attitude, but they're still gelling, and so that will be a test for them coming to Milwaukee. So with that, Brian Henry is walking down the gangway, getting on the plane. That's a dedication he has to y'all, so I hope you appreciate it. We're going to leave you with that. Brian, they're firing up the engines. Any final thoughts?
You have stated it well. Pump the brakes. Be disappointed. I think it's okay to be disappointed. That was a game they were right there and could have had. And I think when they go down to Cincinnati later this season, that's a game you got to look at. They got a good chance to win. I think it's a team that they match up well against.
That's right.
Look, for a guy, it's funny that only scored 3 points in the game. I think Harry Froling's potentially a game changer going forward. I think it really is going to open up and make things easier on other players if he's able to play 20-plus minutes a night at what he did. So I'm very I'm disappointed, but I'm very optimistic going forward.
And on that Harry Froling point, love a kid who's going to throw an elbow at J.P. McCara. Don't care about the technical.
Absolutely. Yeah, that kid can, bite me. Unbelievable.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here at the Real Chili Podcast. We'll probably be back with you post-Georgetown, either Saturday night or Sunday morning, to talk a little bit more about that matchup and get a little bit more in depth than we were able to here today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Brian, safe travels. We'll talk to you soon.
Much obliged. Take care. Happy New Year, everybody.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening to the Real Chili Podcast. We'll talk to you all soon.